Welcome to the Key Martin Unlock Your Greatness podcast. I am your host, Ramon Martin. My today's guest is an inspirational keynote speaker, coach, domestic violence and suicide survivor. She is an author and a social media consultant. Ladies and gentlemen, coming straight out of Hawaii, Deslynn, how you doing? Thank you.
Aloha. Hi, Ramon. I'm so grateful and I'm glad I'm part of your dream to be here.
Yes, it's an honor to have you on the show. You interviewed me a couple of times, and it's only right in this and like I said, it's an honor to just have you on. Yeah, so thank you for coming on the show.
Oh, no, thank you. Can I tell people how I met you?
Absolutely. Yes.
So, I was so during COVID, we were on TikTok, and normally I hang out on Instagram and Facebook, but I was on TikTok, and I noticed Ramon, and he was doing his affirmations, and I was like, wow, this guy's really inspiring. He's really cool. And so I found him on Instagram, and then that's how we became friends. And so I really believe it's possible to find great friendships through social media. And so that's how we met. And I'm so glad we're still friends.
Yes. Yes, I remember that day. Remember when you asked me once, and I kind of, like I said, I got scared and I kind of like shied away. Then you asked me a second time, so I had to lean into fear, and then
Yeah.
I done it, and I've been doing a few interviews since then, and by the grace of God, I'm starting my own platform. So it's just
Yeah.
about leaning into fear, just doing stuff scared until you get comfortable doing it.
Yeah. And you have a lot of heart, and you coach with youth sports, and so I feel like you have a lot of courage, and you have a lot to offer. And so I'm really honored to have had you on my podcast, and to be able to be here with you on yours. So
Yes.
thank you.
Oh yeah. Thank you. And just like my book, I wrote on my symbol was courageous, overcoming, leaning into fear, overcoming fear. So it all falls into place. But enough about me. It's all about you.
Thanks.
Um, yes. So during your trials, let's see, how did you overcome the challenges and faced like overcame like your trials and tribulations over like domestic violence and suicide thoughts?
Yeah, so a little bit background on me. I grew up being exposed to someone in my family that dealt with drug addiction, um, and alcoholism. And because of those activities, um, well, the person had anger issues on top of that. Because of those activities, there was a lot of abuse, verbal, mental, psychological, physical abuse, and that went on for 19 years. It was really hard. You just feel like you're living in two different worlds. But this is like back in the 70s and 80s and 90s when the term domestic violence, I didn't even know what that was until I went to college. So we did the best that we could to cope with it. I never talked about it to people because there's a lot of shame and guilt with it. And what happened was I leaned into positivity. So my mom was always a strong force, a loving force. She really believed in raising us to do what we love. And then her parents, my mom's Filipino. Um, her parents were there to raise us. My parents were very young. They became teenagers when they became parents. By the time I was born, they were 19, and I was the third child. And so my parents were really young. So I feel like looking back, they did the best they could. And as children, we did the best that we could. I leaned into sports. Um, I leaned into music. I leaned into dancing, um, and playing the flute in the band. My teachers were my heroes. They didn't know, but my coaches and my teachers were my heroes. They inspired me to go to college because I'm the only one who. Oh, I was the four siblings. I'm the first one to go and get a bachelor's degree. Um, my younger sister actually graduated the same night, and she became an auto mechanic. And so we got our 2 year degree the same night. But a lot of what I've been through, I didn't talk about it until when I was 31, and I didn't get therapy until my older sister said, "You need to go get therapy. You're pregnant. Whatever you don't deal with as a child is gonna pop up when you become a parent." And so I was kind of hesitant, like, oh, I don't want to go see a therapist, because I don't know, I I didn't know anybody who did, and it was a stigma. Like, if you see a therapist, it's not, oh, people look down on you and whatnot. But 2006, I was pregnant, and my sister, we have another sister, Kiala. Kiala had died in a car accident in 2001, and so I never dealt with the abuse until 2006, after I was grieving the loss of my sister. And so when I went in, I thought I was going in for grief therapy, and I finally dealt with the domestic violence and the trauma that I held for 19 years, and so that's kind of like how I cope with it. One, I believed in God. I prayed a lot, but when my sister died, all the prayer in the world couldn't fill that part of me that felt broken. And so getting professional help was what I needed. And I was 31 years old, and I think that's when I started to heal. I think healing is an ongoing process, but that was like what I needed. Like, I did everything to cope as best as I could, and then when I got the therapy, for me, not everybody's gonna want to do therapy, but for me, the severity of the abuse was so intense that I needed that. I needed to do that kind of help because I can't even remember a lot of my childhood. 90% of my childhood, I don't have a memory because the abuse was so severe that I can't recall my life. And so that's what I went through. So yeah, so I'm really grateful to be at this point.
Yes. Great. Yeah. So, like, far as like mental health, just you tell the audience like with the importance of mental health. Don't matter what age you are, people go through it. Whether if
Hmm.
they're as a teenager or a child, and even as a as an adult, just give them like suggestions and tips on just to keep how to maintain their mental health.
Yeah, a lot of times people they think a child doesn't have challenges. Like, they have it easy. So I don't know why they're having issues with anxiety, depression, or whatever they're going through. But what they don't realize is sometimes they I don't know if you ever heard of the terminology generational trauma?
Yes.
Yeah. So generational trauma is generations of trauma. And we're not talking a year. We're talking like 10 years, like you're looking at 10 generations back. So we pass down trauma, whether it's subconsciously or consciously, and then it comes to me and you, and then we get to choose. Do we carry the same pain? Do we carry the same belief system? Or do we break free? Um, and so a child will display certain things because there's trauma. If the parent, the mom, the mom was going through, say, abuse while she was pregnant, the child is being impacted. So when the baby's born, that child is going to be reactive towards the environment that it's in outside of the mother's womb. And so even if you look at the child, you're like, I don't see what's the problem. The child was already impacted in the womb. And so a lot of times people just think, oh, kids are just acting out, they're making up whatever, but they're so pure that it's all energy to them. Yeah, they can feel energy. And your emotional and your mental health, they go together. They're not separate. You know, how you feel will come out in your emotions and your actions, and your body, your nervous system will identify if there's something, like, kind of like, if a dog is chasing you,
Yeah,
it's automatic. You run.
yeah.
Well,
Run.
some people don't run. I don't know about you. Where I grew up in my neighborhood, if a dog's chasing you, you run.
We
And
run and hop on the
so,
fence.
yeah. And if you're smart, if you see someone else running, you just run. You don't even
Yeah.
think what's going on. You run. And so, as a child, we grow up, we learn behaviors, right? We learn values and whatnot. And people don't realize that when you say things, when you do things, when you expose yourself to things, your child can feel your energy. They can feel your emotions and feelings. And so that impacts their mental health. Even when they're in school, if they're feeling energy from the teachers, see if the teacher's not having a good time, or the kids in the classroom, some people are just hypersensitive. They're gonna feel it. And so they'll display behaviors that people are like, what's your problem? And then when you show lack of compassion on people who are sensitive, you traumatize them, because you make it worse for them. Because then you're not believing in them when they're telling you, I'm having a hard time, and I don't want to do this, and then you get mad at them. Then you just, like, make it worse. So then the child becomes a teenager, and they're starting to display more behaviors that to us is like, oh, that's not a good thing. Why are you so angry all the time? Why are you? Sometimes they'll say you're lazy and whatnot. It's not they're lazy, they're just genuinely having a hard time. If you, as an adult, have never dealt with your own trauma, gotten help to heal, you when your child is mirroring things that's within you, you're gonna get irritated. But if you get the help that you need, when your child is having these behaviors and whatnot, you're gonna have compassion and empathy on them, that you're going to be willing to get help, whether it's from a counselor, a teacher, a family member, the person at church, because it's out of you're not always, as a parent, you're not always equipped to help your child, and that's okay. Um, so if the child doesn't get help at a young age, they become a teenager, they become an adult. Now, everything they never dealt with as a kid is going to manifest as an adult. And one, they can either get help, or they're just gonna keep spiraling, and so um that's kind of like how what happened with me. You cope the best that you can, but eventually you're gonna hit a wall, and
Yeah.
you could be like really bad, or you can just get help. So I don't know,
Right.
does that make sense?
No, no, it makes good sense. It just like there's a few things that I kind of like held in as a child, and as an adult, it was kind of affected relationships and business deals and everything. So like I was taking stuff personal when it should have just been professional about it, and which led to us doing probably me doing this stuff right now, and co-writing the book and everything, and just letting it out instead of like during my childhood didn't know how to do that, and even as a
Yeah.
teenager. So I personally can relate, and I'm sure a lot of people could relate, even people who are listening to this right now. That's for sure.
I mean, if you really think about it, like, the people before us, our grandparents, our ancestors, um, they didn't talk about their feelings.
Yeah.
Like, what is that?
Yeah.
They were survival mode. Yeah, they gotta survive. Especially, I don't know about you, but I come from my great grandparents. They're immigrants, so they immigrated here from another country, from the Philippines. My grandmother is Filipino Hawaiian, but they're just trying to make it. Their first language isn't English; it's their second language.
Yes.
And so then you go down to the next generation. They maybe speak better English. I don't know, but there's a there's a language barrier, right? And then you come to us, right? We have feelings and emotions, but our
Yeah.
parents, they're not gonna let us feel. You're seen, you're not heard. And then you have your children, and then all of a sudden you're like trying to shift gears because they're like, whoa, what is this? You
Yeah.
know? You just like we just suck it up. Our generation was the generation where you suck it up. I'm 49. But then our kids, they don't believe in sucking it up. They believe in letting it out, putting it all over social media. And then you can either panic or you can go, okay, obviously they're having some challenges. Let me figure it out.
Right. Yeah. Now that's
You
the
know?
worst sometimes hearing stuff from a third party on social media and it gets back to you.
Yeah, my child is not happy with me.
Yeah. Oh gosh, yeah. Don't get me started on that stuff right there.
Wow, that was kidding.
Yeah. And so, how do you approach the topic of forgiveness, both towards yourself and others?
So, wait, what is the question again?
How do you approach the topic of forgiving, like yourself and others?
So, I had this conversation with someone the other day, and they're talking about, forgiveness and whatnot. I said, it depends. It depends on the situation and depends on the people. There's a phrase that say, you can be forgiven, but I won't forget, right? So some religious people will say, well, you're supposed to forget and you're supposed to forget. Well, I say if someone is being abused and the person who has been abusive is still in their lives or still alive and they still emulate those same behaviors, it is it's traumatizing again to force them to forgive them. If the person who is the one that had hurt them, it's unfair and I think it's wrong to expect people to forgive people who are still in their lives and trying to hurt them. Um, I believe that it's a personal situation, a personal matter. I had a hard time. I really had a hard time. I had a lot of anger issues because as a child, you're like, I just want to be loved, you know? Um, I'm supposed to trust you. And all I got was hate, you know? When you love somebody as a child and they just, they're hurtful verbally and physically to you, you just feel anger because you feel like you're not good enough, you're not lovable. Um, I had to work through that. I had to write letters, I had to pray, I had to read the Bible, and I was able to confront that person in my family.
Yeah.
Um, he was incarcerated, and so he was sober. And so I spent a good month visiting and for the first time sharing all the pain and hurt I ever felt in my life. And the person was humble, listened, didn't get angry, and hey, Naomi. Oh, thank you. No, thank you.
Mhm.
Um, but for the first time, I believe I was in my 20s. For the first time, this person wasn't angry, wasn't abusive, wasn't verbally, mentally, physically abusive, and it was healing for that person and for me. And I remember going to church, and he came to church, and they said, you know, I'm so happy you came to church. Why did you come? And he said, I want my daughter to know that I love her and that I'm proud of her. And that helped my heart because that's all I think any child wants is um, to feel like their parent or their guardian just is proud of them and they love them. And honestly, that's like the first time he ever said that. And then he died unexpectedly later. And so I think it's a personal decision for people to forgive. Um, I learned to let go of the anger, but it wasn't like overnight. It wasn't like easy because the relationship was hurtful for years. You know what I mean? And so I don't know. Does that answer your question?
No, that does. That's good. So, yeah, I know we always want the approval of our guardians and loved ones, especially as a kid coming up. Whether if it's something in school or activities, sports, we just want our parents and our people that we look up to be proud of us. That's
And
the
sometimes they don't ever say it though.
yeah,
They don't. Like you can go your whole life being successful, and the very person you think, oh, I just want them to be proud of me, they won't say it.
we won't
And
say
it
it.
has nothing to do with you. It's them. Like they have their own struggles, they have their own insecurities, but it has nothing to do with you. But you think it's you, but
Yes,
it's them,
yeah,
and sometimes there's jealousy and competitiveness towards the child.
yeah,
We don't know, and so yeah, so that's how I feel about forgiveness. I
yeah.
think it's possible, but it really depends on the situation.
Oh, yes, yes. I saw a quote that says, "Forgiveness does not require reconnection."
Ooh,
Yeah,
that's a good one.
yeah, yeah. So
I like that.
I use that quote a lot, and people agree with it. Some people don't, but it's but you if you I say if you of course you forgive yourself and you forgive others if they don't forgive you back, you just it's on them. You said your piece and you could just relax and move forward.
Yeah, not everybody you can reconcile with.
Yeah,
Sometimes it's just gonna be you writing a letter to them and never sending that letter.
yeah. Mhm. Write in and burn it.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, let me get a little.
Sorry, just a second. I just noticed I have
Mhm.
to plug my phone in. Just a second.
Okay, no problem. Mm. All
Okay.
right, all right, perfect. Okay. Um, you could tell the audience about your morning routines. I know a lot of morning routines, especially with successful people and people who you know it's part of their mental exercise their mental health. So you could tell the audience what are your morning routines.
Okay, guys, I'll just be honest with you. I don't have a strict morning routine. Um, I I honestly live off of music, and so depending on my mood, like I listen to music. I like reggae. I like hip hop. Uh, I like R&B. I really rely on music because I noticed that not diagnosed, but I have a hard time with attention, like having focused attention. So I rely on music to calm me down because sometimes when I wake up, I just feel like do, 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 like I want to do 50 billion things, and I realize that it's not going to be good. And so I realized music since I was a little girl. Music is the one thing that calms me down and allows me to breathe. I utilize social media to encourage people. I start my day and just calming down, and I think of what is like one thing I can post that would encourage somebody. I normally post first on Instagram, and then I post on TikTok. Um, so some people like to read. I like watching video, and so I consume short video format. But yeah, that's pretty much it.
Mhm.
And I do chores in the morning because my son is sleeping. I sleep early, so I wake up sometimes between the hours of like 3 and 5 because I sleep super early.
Yeah.
And so yeah, so that's I don't have anything exact, guys.
Okay. No, that's perfectly fine. Yes. How do your family and friends support you, or if they do even support you about your success as being the keynote speaker and a podcaster?
So my family just loves me.
Yeah.
Oh, I'll be honest. I'm mainly with my mom's side of the family. My mom is the oldest of seven, and I am the fourth oldest of 24 grandchildren. My son is, I believe, number 19 of like 40 plus great grandchildren. And so they just love me. They're more introverts, they're more quiet, and then there's me. And so they just kind of like they just say, "Hey, good job," and they just let me do my thing. Before I used to be a challenge for them because the you just don't know what I'm gonna talk about,
Yeah.
right? And so they have to learn to just trust the process and know that I'm gonna, like coming out and saying I'm a domestic violence survivor in a book, I'm a suicide survivor in a book, and then speaking, the YWCA and the Zanta Club. Last year, I came out publicly on my island. It, I had to act low key and be like, I'll be back. I'm gonna go speak, but I can't make it a big deal, even though I was one of two keynote speakers, you
Yes.
know, because my mom and I, like, we have a great relationship, but we have to heal. And so I just try not to make it obvious, even if I'm like the main speaker at an
Yeah.
event. And then even with the book, my mom didn't know the book was being published until it was published.
Nice too.
Oh, you too, yeah. And
Yeah.
so I gave the book to my sister-in-law first. We were all hanging out for dinner, and I showed it to my sister-in-law. She's like, "Oh, Desi, this is great. This is like chicken soup for the soul, right?" And so she had a positive review, and so my brother and my mom were happy for me and my nephew because they're
Yeah.
like, "Oh, okay." What
Yeah.
did your family think? Did they
Yeah.
know?
I did not tell them until like maybe like the day the book got released. And and then of course my mom, she was so nervous about it. She thought I was talking, she thought it was all about her, like I'm saying something bad about her, like I had nothing bad to say about you.
Right?
Yeah. So she read almost, I think I'm chapter
Oh,
24 in the book, and she read like she went from the first chapter maybe all the way to the 16th. The book been out since July uh 2023, and she haven't got to my chapter yet.
oh my gosh, are you serious?
Hmm.
Yeah, no, well, what do you think? So, my intentions was I just wanted to help one person, right?
Yeah.
But when I wrote it, I kept it simple because the details is not something is important. I think it's the idea of what we've been through. I
Yeah.
think the details is something I would want to share one on one or in a small group setting, not publicly
Yeah.
on social media.
Hmm.
I don't know. What do you think now that you became an author?
Yeah. So that's all I want to do. Just want to help people reach out to people, and whether if it's my chapter that inspires somebody or somebody else's chapter, it's just about reaching out to that one person, and that
Yes.
one person could make an impact for hundreds, thousands, or billions. So that's all I want. I don't want no money from it. Don't care much about the money or
Yep.
personal publicity. I just want to reach out to that one person that will make an impact.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know because I know that's something you're leaning into as a keynote speaker. Also, uh, I, I don't talk about what I do with my family to be quite honest because I'm different
Yeah,
and they love me. But if I try to explain what I'm about to do, it goes over their head.
yeah, same here.
So, so I just, the podcast, they don't understand what is a podcast, what do you talk about and stuff like that. I don't
Yeah.
really break it down for them. They just know I do things, but I don't really explain things because it's too hard to comprehend.
You're right,
As long as I'm a contributing person in our family and I'm present, that's all that matters.
right. Yeah, same. Yeah, same here. Just I don't talk much to my family about the podcast or anything I do. It's just being around the like-minded people who are into the stuff that we're doing, and that's my main focus. I don't try to convince much of my family or friends or anything unless they're interested or they ready to even talk about it. I'll be a part of
Yeah.
it.
But that's why I hang out with people like you guys on social
Yeah,
media because even though we live so far away from each other, like I'm on an island in the middle of nowhere, but we vibe,
yes.
like we've created like a community a virtual community, and I think that's what matters the most to me.
Oh yeah. Yeah, so
Yeah.
like Les Brown says, practice OQP, only quality people.
By the way, I love Les Brown. He is like a dad to me. That he never met me, but like I absolutely Les Brown. I love Les Brown.
Yes, now. Hey, he has 10 kids, so he might have left one on the island now.
Hey,
Yeah,
I know your training came for Les Brown, but I'm all down for Les Brown to come to Hawaii and you coming along with him. So I just put it out there.
okay, hey, our vision, I'll hold that vision.
Yeah,
Yeah, yes, it'll happen.
it's possible. It's
Yes,
possible.
yes. Oh yeah. Speaking of podcasts, you want to help and just tell people what are the keys to manifesting. No, that's not the right question. Look, I'm not going to edit that. How did you start your own podcast, and
Oh,
how
okay.
can you help
So,
people get started on their own
oh yeah,
podcast?
no problem. So, like Ramon, you start off with an idea and it goes like this. One day I want to start a podcast, right? Well, that idea came and it went for 3 years.
Yeah.
And I finally said, you know what? I need to do this. And um, I had to have a why because the fear of one, I don't like my voice, or what if I don't make sense? What if nobody listens? Was like it's right there sitting next to you. And so I said, okay, I have to go deeper. So I said, you know what? Because I went through my childhood um, challenges with abuse, and because my sister died from a car accident, I want to talk about grief. I want to talk about mental health, and I want to talk about healing because I was able to go through that journey. And so the podcast, Healing with Aloha, officially launched in 2019. But there was only one episode, and the it paused to take care of family, my grandmother. And then 2020, that's when I officially started rolling forward,
Yes.
right? And so um, I was telling Ramon that the first time I did the podcast, it was on SoundCloud. I did an episode. I used my laptop. I was trying to be all professional, like need a microphone and whatnot. Then in 2020, I said, you know what? I switched it over to Anchor.fm, which is now recently bought out by Spotify. And I said, I'm going to make the next, I think it was 3 or 5 episodes. I'm going to make it with the earpiece. And this was back in 2020. So to buy an earpiece, it's about what, 10.99 or something crazy, depending where you buy it from. Because
Right.
I have an Apple phone. And so I said, I'm going to record on this so that anybody who ever says I don't have money can't say they don't have money because I'm a single mom, a divorced single mom. And I started the podcast on Anchor.fm with earpieces. And it's not nothing fancy. And it was to prove a point that you have a voice and it's on your heart and you can do it too. And so, yeah, so I graduated and I use a cell phone and sometimes I use a microphone. Like right now, I'm using earpiece to do this interview. So, yeah, you can be low budget and still make quality impact.
Well, yeah, that's what this podcast is on right now. Just a tablet and a microphone, and I just recently just got a light. So, so it's just about just start with what you got right now. Like
Yep,
that was my excuse. I was supposed to start this podcast 2 years ago, and
2 years ago, guys.
yeah, and Leslie was kept on reminding me like you need to get this started. Like you got to get this started. So like
Shout
she
out to Leslie.
shout out to Leslie, and so who's also behind the scenes and produces the show. Yeah, so like yeah, so she was a big part of push this platform out here. And yeah, so like just start with what you got. That's what
Yep.
people ask me like I don't got this and that, and like just start with what you got. If I could
Yeah,
do it, I could do it.
I'm not trying to lean into one thing or another, but I can tell you if you do Spotify for podcasters, it's free. You just download the app on your cell phone or your iPad, and you just record. Nowadays, though, you can actually do video, but back then you didn't even have to do video. You can just record your voice. So it's really a preference thing. Some people want to have video. You can put it on social media. You can put it on YouTube. But if you're someone who's like, I don't want to be seen, you can just record your voice and load it up to
Yes.
the platforms. And then once I had so many episodes on Anchor.fm, then what you do is you copy the link from the RSS feed, and then you submit it to Apple
Uh,
Podcasts, and then
yes.
you submit it to Amazon Music. And so I'm on over 12 platforms, but
Yeah.
there's a process, but it's totally worth it. I think the friendships you make along the way is worth it. That's
Yeah.
all I can say. There's people who look for people that look like us, that sound like us,
Yes.
that have gone through the same life experience, and they need to see you on here, so they don't feel so isolated and so alone. There's not a lot of brown people on pod, podcasts,
Yeah.
and right?
Yeah. I don't know the statistics of that. Yeah,
Yeah. So
but
since
yeah.
I've been on uh as a podcaster since 2019.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of brown people,
Yeah.
um, a lot of minorities.
Yeah.
And so I think it's really important for us to show up. If it's on your heart and you're listening to this episode, um, definitely reach out to us. You know what I mean? But I would recommend you do Spotify for podcasters because it's free to sign up.
Yeah. Yes. It definitely works out for me for sure. Yes. Oh yeah. So like you said, you have your own podcast called Healing with Aloha. Um, yeah, before we leave, you wanna anything else you wanna advertise for yourself and any closing remarks?
Yes. So if you want to get a hold of me, uh, my email is Deslynn Jaquias, DeSlynnJaquias @gmail.com. The book I'm in, I'm a co-author. There's 30 authors. It's called The Power to Rise Above. You can find it on Amazon. And if you wanted to find me on social media, you can find me on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube as Aloha Deslynn. Oh, and also on Threads. Yeah, it's the new thing for
Yeah.
yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Also on Pinterest. So Aloha Deslynn, Deslynn. And if you listen to this episode, you have any questions, just message me or email me and just say I'm Ramon. I listened to this podcast. I had some questions. There is a link so you can talk to me for 50 minutes, just like an intro, get to know me. And yeah, so I just wanted to let people know that it's never too late to heal. You're never too young or too old to dream. And it's always possible. It's not about achieving the dream, it's the journey along the way and the people you'll fall in love with and who will fall in love with you. Because you guys become like minded, you'll find your tribe, and it's okay to not be okay, and it's also okay to be great.
Yes. Amen to that. Awesome. All right. Hey, thank you so much for coming on this platform. Definitely appreciate you. Thank you for your positive energy. Thank you for your inspiration. It's always a pleasure chatting with you and working with you.
Well, I am honored and privileged to be here, and I look forward to what we're about to do, whether it's virtually or in person. But thank you so much, guys. Thank you for listening.
Yes. Ladies and gentlemen, Deslynn. And that would be it for today, ladies and gentlemen. Until next time, we'll see you on the next show.